Here now, Geraldo Rivera, Fox News correspondent at large and author of The Geraldo Show. Geraldo, good to have you with us tonight. You listened to those two young men.
Thank you, Martha.
Not young men anymore, but recounting some horrific experiences that they say they had at Neverland.
You know, Martha, this is the era where we have to believe the victims of abuse when they come forward. But I have to say, the thing about Wade Robson specifically, as Trace Gallagher accurately reported there, is that during the trial, he was adamant that Michael Jackson, despite the many hours they spent together, had never, not one time, molested him. So is he lying now, or was he lying then? I cannot credit this, and I have to recall also the judge in his 2005 case, which I also covered, remarking how all of these victims, told their stories to the tabloids rather than to investigators. So to me, there's nothing new. It is graphic. The detail is very vivid, but it would also seem to me to be in their best interest to tell the most dramatic story possible. I would like to know the financial arrangements between these two young men and HBO, Martha.
I mean, it's so hard to reconcile, Geraldo. These stories are so disturbing. You look back at Michael Jackson's life, and, he was always surrounding himself with children everywhere he went. And when you look at the way that people who do abuse children, and, I'm just observing all of this as we watch this documentary and I listen to you, it was like grooming on steroids at Neverland. Candy, free candy, animals, your birthday party, the sleepover parties. It is so hard to discount their stories given everything that we've all seen over the years.
Amen to everything you just said, Martha, but I have spent I did spend quite a bit of time with Michael Jackson in Neverland, and also when he was in exile in the days leading up to that trial. He was frightened, he was paranoid, he didn't know who to trust. He had just been burned by Martin Bashir, the British journalist who ingratiated himself with Michael for 8 months and then devastated him with an expose that I thought was grotesquely unfair. Just because Michael Jackson is weird, and just because Neverland was this creation, this Disneyland-like creation, doesn't make him a molester. I don't know. All I know is that Robson told a very vivid story in 2005, very convincing. It was because of his exculpatory testimony, I think, that Michael Jackson beat the 2005 rap,
I think you're right.
which I also think was fabricated evidence. And now he's changing the story. He tried to get a job. This is one important point. He tried to get a job.
I'm sorry. I think there's a little bit of a delay. There's so many Me Too stories along the same lines where people said that nothing happened, and then years later they come forward and say that now they have the strength to tell their story. I got to leave it there, but we're going to talk more about this because this is airing over the course of this weekend, and there's a huge musical about Michael Jackson that's coming to New York City next year, so this story's not going anywhere. Thank you very much. Good to see you tonight, Geraldo.
Thank you, Martha.
You bet. So coming up next, the Duchess.